Hey folks, Mike Johnson here. If it's got wheels and an engine, you're in the right place. On this channel, we dive into car repairs, maintenance tips, and everything you need to keep your ride running smooth. If you're into cars and want to keep learning, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. All right, enough talking. Let's get into it.
Battery cables are essential because they connect the battery to the vehicle. Even though battery cables are made from thick copper wire, they can eventually become damaged or corroded to the point where they need to be changed. The good news is that if you have the right knowledge and tools, changing the battery cable is usually a job you can do yourself. Made from thick copper wire, battery cables provide the electrical connections between the battery and the vehicle. How to test battery cables. There are two cables, a positive and a negative, connected to the battery. The positive cable connects the battery to the starter motor and the car's electrical system, while the negative cable connects the battery to a grounding point. Each cable attaches to the battery with a terminal end. Damaged or corroded battery cables can cause the engine to start slowly or refuse to start. If you suspect that one, or both, of your car's battery cables may be faulty, the first step in proving, or disproving, this theory is to carry out a visual inspection. Check that the cables show no obvious signs of damage, such as breakage or excessive corrosion. Replace the cables if necessary. There are also cases where cables may show damage or corrosion that is not visible. In such a scenario, the best way to detect a faulty cable is to carry out a voltage drop test on the starter circuit. A voltage drop test is an excellent way of detecting a high-resistance problem, e.g., excessive corrosion, that is preventing current from flowing through the cable. However, before performing a voltage drop test, you must ensure that the battery is fully charged. You can test a battery state of charge using a digital multimeter, DMM. To do this, proceed as follows. A note, the following are general guidelines for educational and entertainment purposes only. Consult your vehicle's factory information for specific repair instructions and recommended safety procedures. Put on your safety glasses. Set digital multimeter to 20 volts DC setting. Connect the meter's black wire to the battery's negative terminal and the meter's red wire to the battery's positive terminal. A sufficiently charged battery should be at least 12.2 volts. Battery cables may be damaged or corroded to the extent that they need to be replaced. Once you've ensured that the battery is fully charged, you can perform voltage drop tests on the battery cables. To test the positive battery cable, set the digital multimeter to the 2 volts DC setting. Disable the ignition or fuel system to prevent the engine from starting. Note, this can usually be done by disconnecting the electrical connectors from the ignition coils of each cylinder, if fitted, or by removing the fuel injection relay or fuse. Do not disconnect the spark plug wires. Connect the red wire from the meter to the positive terminal on the battery cable, and the black wire from the meter to the other end of the cable at the starter battery terminal. Ask an assistant to turn the ignition key to the start position and note the meter reading. Note, if the engine starts, do not let it run for more than 15 seconds while it is switched off. As a general rule, the reading should be less than 0.2 volts. Anything more generally indicates that the cable has a high resistance condition and should be replaced. Next, you'll want to perform a voltage drop test on the negative battery cable. The process is very similar to testing the positive side of the circuit. Connect the meter's red wire to the negative terminal of the battery cable, and the meter's black wire to the other end of the engine cable. Ask an assistant to turn the ignition key to the start position and note the meter reading. As a general rule, the reading should be less than 0.2 volts. Anything more generally indicates that the cable has a high resistance condition and should be replaced. How to change battery cables. Once you've determined that one of the battery cables is defective, you can go ahead and replace it. Changing battery cables varies according to the year, make and model of the vehicle. So before you get started, it's a good idea to consult the instructions for your application in a repair manual or repair database. Below is a general overview of what's involved in changing battery cables. Tools and equipment needed to change a battery cable. The tools required to change a battery cable vary according to the type of car you own. In general, however, you'll need jack and jackstands repair manual or access to a repair database, safety glasses, wheel chocks, wrench set instructions for changing Battery cables. Changing a battery cable is generally a fairly straightforward task. The following steps will give you an idea of what the job usually involves. The positive cable connects the battery to the car's starter and electrical system, while the negative cable connects the battery to a grounding point. Note, the following are general guidelines for educational and entertainment purposes only. Consult your vehicle's factory information for specific repair instructions and recommended safety procedures. Remove battery cable, put on your safety glasses. Lift and support the vehicle safely using a jack and jack stands. Apply the parking brake and chock the rear wheels. Disconnect the negative battery cable from the battery. Insulate the cable so that it cannot come into contact with the battery. Disconnect the positive battery cable from the battery. Remove the fasteners securing the battery retainer in place. Remove the retaining device from the vehicle. Carefully remove the battery from the vehicle. With the battery out of the way, trace the two battery cables back to where they connect to the vehicle. Tip: the positive battery cable connects to the starter and usually to the electrical distribution block. Meanwhile, the negative battery cable usually attaches to the grounding points on the chassis, engine, and body. Disconnecting the negative battery cable. Installing the battery cable. Compare the new battery cables with the old battery cables to ensure that both are of the same design. Note, if the cables are universal, they may need to be cut to length and/or terminal ends replaced. How much does it cost to change the battery cable? If you choose to have your car's battery cables changed by a professional, you can generally expect to pay between €250 and €400 to have the job done. Of course, the exact price will depend on various factors, such as the year, make and model of your vehicle. You can save money by replacing battery cables yourself if you have the tools and know-how. In conclusion, changing your car battery cables is a straightforward task that can save you time and money. By following the steps we've outlined, you can ensure a secure and reliable connection for your vehicle's electrical system. Remember to always prioritize safety by wearing protective gear and working in a well-ventilated area. With a little patience and the right tools, you'll have your battery cables replaced in no time. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more helpful automotive tips.